we talk about the mental game, but it's physiology is what's creating emotions. It's really interesting. So, for example, I'm watching 3 guys play yesterday. One guy's 8 under, one guy's 5 under, and one guy's 1 over. And as it's almost always this way, the guy who's 8 under is walking in front of everybody. Shoulders are back, chest is high, chin is like this, eyes on the horizon. He's cruising. He looks like he's in Jamaica, right? He's just left Brooklyn. He's now in Jamaica for 5 days. That's what he looks like. The guy in second, posture's good, but his head's down. So he's getting a little cognitive, but posture's good. The guy in the back looks like he's just been told he has leukemia. He's doing that, right? So I've studied NLP for a couple of years, and NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And you know, it's important. I stay Thursday, Friday at tournaments to watch my guys play, and I'll video them when they're playing well and when they're not playing well. I'm not videoing their swing. I'm videoing them in between shots because it's unbelievable. And most of the time when they see themselves not playing well, they're embarrassed by what they see, you know, because they make fun of guys who look like that. But we get unconscious when we're being fools. We don't really know we're being fools, you know. So that's a big part. Like, you know, a great story I tell all my guys is a story about this guy has a horse. My friend Jim Murphy told me this story, who works with Hunter on the mental game. I don't typically, I try to live by action with my players, and I'll talk about it a little bit, but when you're talking about swing and chipping and all that, and then you start talking about nutrition, and then you start talking about training, and then you start talking about the mental stuff, it only takes about 2 months before you sound like their dad, and most of us know we shut off our dad, right? Even though we shouldn't have, but we did. It's too many voices, the same thing. So I know enough about it that I can seek out people who I think are, you know, are very competent to help my guys, and because that's what it's all about. It's about the person to me as much as it is world ranking. That's world ranking's 15th or 30th. It's probably not helping your relationship with your kids, the stuff that matters. So this guy has a horse, and his friend comes over and he says, "Where's your horse?" He said, "My horse is gone." And he goes, "Oh man, that's terrible." He goes, "No, I don't know if it's bad or good yet. I don't know." So the next day they're sitting out on the patio having a beer, and the horse comes back with another horse. And his friend says, "Man, it was great. He brought back another horse. You have 2 horses now." The guy says, "I don't know if that's bad or good yet." Right? So his son's going to this riding camp in the Grand Canyon on the weekend. So he says, "Look, you can take the new horse. I want you to break him in." Kid gets up, goes to break him in. Horse bucks, falls off, breaks his femur, not going to camp. His leg's broken. His friend says, "Man, I knew that horse wasn't a good thing." He goes, "I don't know if it's bad or good yet." So long story short, this can go on for 10 minutes. It's pretty funny where it ends up. But long story short, these kids go to the camp, they get in a mudslide, and all these kids perish. This is a true story in the Grand Canyon. So, but his son wasn't able to go on that horse. So what I see on tour is guys hit it right off the tee, and my favorite thing is going up to where they are and watching them walk up to the ball in the rough, and they just, and they, you know, they look to God first, like, why? God's probably a little busier in Africa than on the PGA Tour, right? Oh, man. Oh. And they look at their caddy. I told you it was the wrong club, right? But it's amazing that Hunter did this the other day. He drove it down the middle as normal, and then he stayed in the middle of the fairway, and you know, the commentators are talking about how good Hunter's swing is and all this stuff. It was funny. So he gets up and he just straight hosels it. I've never seen him hosel a shot in my life. So he hosels it. He told me he was in between 7 and 6 and decided to hit a hard 7. That's why he hoseled it. Right? And people say, well, oh, you can see there that, you know, he got underneath and the face was open. No, he just wasn't committed, and that's why he was underneath and his face was open. Right? So the cause and effect aspect, chicken and the egg. So Hunter starts thinking about that horse story, right? And he's come a long way with this stuff. So he gets down there, and he's on a downhill side hill, and Hunter has angle issues sometimes with chipping and pitching, but it's getting a lot better. And he makes it. Gets it over the bunker, lands it on the downslope, and it rolls in like a perfect 5-footer. Whereas Hunter of old it would have been bad. It wouldn't have been, I don't know if it's good or bad yet. So that's part of that. That's definitely a big part of it, because typically you don't know what's happening in the present to you until you reflect, like, how many times have you had something bad happen to you and 2 months later you kind of giggle at yourself because you let it overwhelm you so much it wasn't that big of a deal, right? But then from the other standpoint is what I've tried to do is, I've read everything. I've read anything I could get my hands on, from the Golf Machine to Mac O'Grady stuff to Stack and Tilt to Butch Harmon to David Ledbetter to Jim Flick, Bob Toski, Gary Wyron, to now Stephen Nesbitt's papers and all the stuff Brian Manzella puts on his website. My good friend James Lights has helped me out a lot. Nothing is original in what I'm doing. But I've been teaching for 17 years and probably close to 80 hours a week, so my experiential knowledge of students is pretty high. And but I start at impact and I go backwards. So like I said, I can see someone who takes to the top and they go like that. Well, once I assess them and they have like poor rotation, they're never going to be on a plane at that point. And I mean, look at some of the best ball strikers of all time, or best players. They weren't really the best ball strikers. Greg Norman, Kenny Perry, Payne Stewart, Fred Couples. I mean, someone says that's across the line. Basically, all that means is that the baseline is going to be shifted out to the right at impact. It's not really, across the line is fine if you want to hit a push draw. Where it's laid off is, what happens is in the thrusting, club's in that position, I pull the handle down, the handle goes that way. I'm not twisting the handle, I'm pushing it straight down and look at which way it goes. So if someone gets across, they thrust in the vertical aspect of the downswing, and there's your in to out. Vice versa, someone gets super laid off, you thrust down on the handle, it's going to work out to in. So it depends on, if a guy's super laid off and he wants to hit a draw, I'm probably going to change that a little bit, or convince him that the fade is fine too. But the swing that I want people to have, it's like, I think if you look at all my guys, they don't look the same at all. Hunter is the most flexible out of all of them. He rotates. If you look at Hunter on the through swing, you think he sliced every shot, but everything's a push draw. And he hits the most amount of draws versus the least amount of hooks of anyone I've ever met. And basically, he has the ability to do that because hand path gets pretty deep on the backswing, and all we've worked on for the last couple of years is really trying to slow down how fast this tracks initially, because it led to some back issues. But just trying to get him, instead of drawing it with just a pattern where it's kind of a plain, kind of an in to out with a hold, is trying to get him to draw it with a tack angle. So, I mean, if people here have probably noticed that they've hit straight shots and went behind it and the divot's pointed to the left, and they're like, when I came over the top, how did it go straight? A tack angle manages plane line. So if I'm hitting down on an object, I'm not only hitting down on it, the sweet spot's moving out at impact. And that's why you can see with Tiger right now, how he's got a lot of this in his practice swing, is because Tiger hits down quite a bit, like between 6 and 7 degrees on the 7-iron. So if he wants to hit a straight shot, he's got to swing the base of the plane 4.5 degrees to the left. So there's no such, you're not on plane until you're on plane to your attack angle. So there's not like a plane, okay? If a guy's kind of shallow and he hits down one, then if he swings way to the left, he's going to have a lot of curve. So that if someone wanted to be on a zero plane, they have to be pretty close to a zero attack angle. That's pretty hard to do with an iron and hit it well. So the whole idea of being on plane, it depends. And you look back to the old school, which is where I saw a lot of this, was that I always noticed that their left arm on their backswing was way deeper than it was on the downswing. And it makes sense. So if someone's saying, get the shaft in this position, it should match it. I mean, this way I'm turning with it, and now I'm rotating this way at like an accelerated rate, so I have to stall my arms out. It's always going to be swinging out and shifting out, like how I'm at great. But basically, I teach the individual what they need to know, but I'm always on TrackMan, and TrackMan really tells me from that point where we need to go.